So let me bring up Jess's chart again. And then Jess, what I'd love for you to do is just share with me a little detail about what's going on here. So what career have you been in? Why are you wanting to leave? What are you frustrated about? Just give me some texture about what's going on.
Sure. I've spent well over a decade as a teacher of the deaf and hard of hearing.
Okay.
I'm no longer doing that. Um,
Okay.
just major shifts that way. Um, I am still interested in using sound more through tuning forks and have done a lot of additional training for sound healing techniques,
Mm.
as well as somatic therapeutic practices and breath work. Um, and I guess I'm just in this phase now of letting go of the educational kind of training in the sense of like, okay, gotta follow a certain curriculum, and I'm now shifting into allowing new protocols and as clients come in, um, tailoring it specifically for them and their
Mm.
time as well. So I'm curious
Great.
to see how this kind of ties in with my life's work, because as far as I'm understanding, the sun is being highlighted, like the 57 is being highlighted right now, just in terms of gateways. Uh,
It's next week, actually, Monday.
right, you are correct. So this is like
But
an
yeah, it's your incarnation
important,
cross. Yeah.
yes, and I'm
Happy
trying.
birthday.
Oh, thank you.
When is your birthday? It's not on here, but anyway, you don't have to say because I actually don't put people's birthdays out if you don't want it on the internet. But happy birthday since we're in your incarnation cross.
Thank you. It's
Yeah,
Monday,
it's
so
Monday. Okay.
I'm excited about that. But I also want to shift more into allowing that my intuition to help guide my life's work. And I feel
Okay.
like that's, as far as I'm reading my own chart, I think that's how it's supposed to be.
How what's supposed to be?
Um, Allowing my intuition to help guide my life's work.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And so do you feel like you're in touch with your intuition right now?
Yes.
Good. So is there anything in the way of you allowing your intuition to guide you?
Energy management,
Mm,
as
tell me
well
more
as,
about that.
oh, there's some times where the head is like, oh, job opportunities, especially in terms of what fit in with societal expectations.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Um, and yet, when I check in with the rest of my body, it's like, we don't have energy for that. That's not a good choice. Also, it takes me further away from the kind of sound healing that I would like to be doing. Uh,
Okay.
so, yeah.
Okay. Well, so you have a really strong head and it's defined by the logic circuit. So that's something that is just good to note that you want to just get a handle on because that 63-4 can also because of our social conditioning, get pretty negative. It can get pretty doubtful. It can be skeptical. It can be undermining. It can be kind of like, oh, Jess, forget that sound healing thing. When are you going to get something really solid and get a real job? Right. It can be that way. Does it feel that way sometimes to you?
Oh yeah, and that
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that critical part is like a stab to the heart, because it also feels like the more I have opportunities to be in the sound healing, the more energy I'm also getting from that.
Exactly. See, so that's a really good indicator that you're moving in the right direction. If you're getting more energy from what you're doing, you're moving in the right direction. Just always know that. Okay. But the thing about that 63-4 is it can be a beautiful ally when you are, and actually, Jupiter's lighting up your 63. So it's supposed to be a blessing for you. So the higher expression of that 63-4, the 63 is It's this is about curiosity. This is about possibility. This is about new fresh information coming in from super consciousness. And the thing is it is more logical. So it's about patterns, and it is that left brain energy, but you want to be able to disjoin that that left brain energy from the judgmental conditioning that most of us have been subjected to around our left brain energies. Does that make sense to you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that's one thing I would say in terms of working with that defined head and ajna that you've got going on there, because you're going to have a strong mind up here, right? And you want to watch out for the defined ajna moving into a state of certainty, which is inaccurate, which it can do. You can get this really strong sense, and combined with logic, it can be like, well, it can feed the need to be right. And I'm not hearing that that's really an issue for you, but it might. And you want to watch out for that because it's often not accurate. Um, and yet that defined ajna can definitely feel really certain that it's right. This is why it's good to solicit other people's inputs so that you can kind of break out of the way that ajna can get really certain. Now, um, one thing I would say is you do have a big split here, right? So, yeah, just a split, not a triple split. Yeah, you do have a big split. So sometimes do you feel like your head and your body are like living different lives?
Very much so.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the best things I can say for you is to really continue to do what you're doing, which is to do somatic practices, do breath work, do things that help you really get down into your body and really feel the power of your form and your energy body. And so that this doesn't be overly dominant. Like, you want to be able to use it, but you don't want it to be overly dominant. And our culture tends to want to make all of this overly dominant. So you kind of have to be working against that way that we've all been conditioned, right? But you're going to be able to access that intuition, and not just access it, but trust it and learn to have it guide your life. The more that you can get down in your soma and get out of just the overthinking and the analytical mind. And sound healing is awesome for that. I mean, this is why I teach Kundalini yoga, both in the community and then, with my clients and stuff in my programs, because it helps us to really be incarnate and to really come into our form, and helps us to release the overthinking that we tend to do. So what it sounds like you're doing is great. So where's the challenge for you?
A lot of it isn't lining up with societal expectations. And mm,
Okay. Well,
yeah.
so the thing is that your chart is not a chart of somebody who's going to fit in all that well. You know, like that 57, 51, those are both super intense energies that are very countercultural. And so, that, and I'm just going ahead and looking at your charts still some more, but, and, so what goes on for you when you move forward with doing what feels really aligned for you on the inside, such that you want to stop or you get afraid or whatever it is that happens?
uh, there's some pieces around it too about the more I step into that role of the healing component.
Hmm.
um, there are some pieces, whether it be financially or otherwise, it doesn't necessarily line up with like my partner's expectations and paying the bills. There's still a lot of things around too, that exchange. And that also ties into what are societal expectations around money, and the financial system. So uh, I think that's something that I'm still working on, and also acknowledging too that the time that I put into it in terms of creating a protocol and the resources that I've created that align with the client, that's worth value. And I have just as much of a, I guess, an opportunity and a right to put like a monetary value on it. It just
Mm-hmm.
is still really uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, so am I right in thinking that you are, you in the past, you were working for an organization or an institution, and now you're looking at going out and being on your own?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's the main rub. That's the thing, Jess. Okay. Everything that you've said is a characteristic of moving from being an employee to being an entrepreneur. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's really the issue for you more than anything else. Um, I mean, because, and a lot of people run into this, because having your own business, having your own practice, it's really different than working for somebody. I'm a huge advocate of it personally, but it's not for everybody. I mean, you do have this beautiful gate 26 lit up by Uranus. The gate 26 is the gate of sales in traditional human design, also known as the trickster, which is what we do when we're manipulative with sales, or integrity, which is in quantum human design, which is what we do when we are really aligned around what we're doing. And so you have that support for you in terms of bringing your work out into the world.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, to me, I would say follow that energy and use your sacral. Or have you been using your sacral authority?
Trying to.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing, is how often am I in my body or far enough in it uh, to get responses that feel like, yes, this is the right amount of energy, or this has got enough of that yumminess to it to go after that,
Mm-hmm.
and to allow the upstairs head part to be quiet enough
Mm-hmm.
to listen to my body.
Just it sounds to me like you're actually pretty on track. It's
Mm-hmm.
just that you're running into both a learning curve around about having your own business. Have you had any business training?
No.
So there's no reason for you to expect that you should be able to create a business if you haven't had any training in how to do that. It's one of the things. So I was a high-end business coach for people in the healing arts for a number of years. And before I came to human design. And yeah, I very, very frequently ran into people who had not had even the most fundamental business training, and they were floundering and they're trying to get their practices going. And I'm like, okay, well, so would you go out and try to do sound healing with somebody if you hadn't been trained in sound healing?
No.
Would you go out and try to teach the deaf if you hadn't been trained in how to teach the deaf?
Oh, it would be
No.
hot.
So why should you think you should go out and do a business if you haven't had any training in doing a business?
Hmm.
It's a very common thing trap that people fall into, Jess. So I want you to know, I'm not saying this to you like there's something wrong with you. It's just a really common thing that people fall into. And I just want to say there's no reason that you should know how to do this unless you do some studying. You know what I mean? Like you studied everything else. And so many people I know in the healing arts will cut off their left arm to take another training in another modality, but will they get business training? No.
Okay.
But I'll tell you, the world is very different as a solopreneur than it is as an employee. It's extremely different. So I'm not going to go into trying to teach you that right here. Although I do that with clients, and I do still have material available for that, Jess, if you wanted to ever talk to me about any of that. But one of the things I would just say is that virtually everyone I know who's gone from being an employee to having their own business runs into this kind of stuff you're running into. So there's nothing wrong at all with what's happening for you. There's nothing particular about it. It's just part of the process.
Ooh, still uncomfortable.
Well, you have to get used to being uncomfortable, because you're going to go on being uncomfortable for a long time. I'm just being totally honest with that. See, that's my 51. There we go. You got the 51. My 51 just came out and said, you know what? I got to kind of initiate you into having your own business. And it's just going to be uncomfortable, And one of the things that we say in this kind of business training is you got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Like it's just this idea that somehow this is going to become comfortable will get in your way.
Mm,
But what happens is that you just kind of be like, oh, I have no idea how to do this. Okay, well, let's give it a shot. You know what I mean? Let's experiment. Let's see. Oh, I made a mistake. Oops. All right, let's go in and fix it. You know what I mean? It's like that's going to be a part of your life.
mm,
And the more that you can embrace that and just go, yeah, use that 28. You've got Pluto lighting up that 28. And the 28 is like, where's the adventure in the challenge? Where's that adventure?
mm,
Let me build up my enthusiasm and my positive anticipation for the challenge, right? Rather than being, oh, this is really uncomfortable. Because the 28 can also be victim consciousness. I don't know what to do. Things don't seem to work for me. I'm not saying you did this, Jess, but I'm just saying, like we can go into this state where we're like, so you want to flip it around and be like, wow, we're on a big adventure. Entrepreneurialism is a big adventure, well worth the endeavor, but you're going to be uncomfortable. I'm just being honest.
that's all right. I can work with like uncomfortable, but trying to stay curious about it because there's going to be new
Absolutely.
insights and
Yeah.
learnings about it.
Yeah. And you don't need to suffer, but that's going to have to do with your attitude. And it's going to have to do with you learning to stand in that beautiful G center that you have of yourself, which is your identity and your direction in life, and tell other people who think that you should get a job that they need to mind their own business.
It's about following that intuition as a life's path.
I mean, yeah. Okay, I have to move on. I could talk
Yeah.
a lot longer with you about this, Jess, but I can't because we
Thank
got to
you.
move on. All right. Helpful?
Very.
Good.
Thank you.